Welcome back to the Becoming Her podcast. Dr. Ann and I are back. I got a little
Yes.
tongue-tied there. Yes. And you guys, I promised last episode that this idea that just came to mind as we were podcasting, and I'm like, we're going to do a whole series on this. And we are going to do a three-part series. Say that 5 times fast.
No, no. I'm gonna feel that one.
And we're really going to be diving into parts work. And we'll reference the Richard Schwartz is his last name, right, Anne? Correct me
Mm.
if I'm wrong. Okay. And we're going to be referencing the Internal Family Systems, that book. And so if you have not heard of this book, I would highly encourage, and I'll link the book in the show notes for you guys to order off of Amazon. It is such a quick read. It is such a powerful read. So, in combination with the part series that we're doing, everything that we'll be speaking to is based off of his work. But I would encourage every single one of you to go buy that book. It's super cheap, super quick read, and just very, very, very powerful. But
Mhm.
before we dive in, I want to announce something that's pretty fun. It's funny because I don't really use, my husband's like, Nicole, why don't you use the podcast to market more? And I'm like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like a marketing platform to me. I love getting on here and just having conversation and really connecting. It's funny because the podcast is definitely, it's of all of the social media platforms that I have, everyone's like, more podcast episode, Nicole, more podcasts, more
Oh,
podcasts.
that's so
And so he's like,
amazing.
you think you would market a bit more? And I was like, yeah, you would think. But it's just crazy to me how much the podcast has grown. And I don't even really market the podcast. And so it just speaks volumes to the, conversations that we have and ability to connect. And that's what I want to keep this as. I don't want this to feel overly salesy or spammy, but I do want to announce something that we have launched because it's really exciting on our end. It's something I've been cooking in the background for a while. So we just launched the Becoming Her Collective. For those of you who don't know what that is, this is a space, a container for women who maybe you're not quite to the 101 place just yet. Maybe you don't trust me enough, rightfully so. I'm sure for so many of you, you've tried so many different approaches and have been burned in the past. Maybe financially, it's just not there for you yet. And the collective is a container where I give you everything that you need to know to be successful. So I give you the resources, I give you the community, I give you the app, I give you the framework of the 4M method. And that's the method that we utilize on our team for the jaw-dropping results that we produce. I'll be in there monthly doing Q&A lives. Jules will be in there doing form lives. Coach Jen will be in there doing bill prep live. So there is just a ton of value to this space. So it's not even the value that is what I'm going to brag about, but it's the community aspect of it. Because when you have women in a container that are in the exact same phase of life as you are, that have the same limiting beliefs and struggles and insecurities, there is something so powerful to be able to band together. And that's the part that is, I just, I mean, and you can speak to the one-on-one container that we have that we've been able to build on the one-on-one coaching side. It is so, so, so powerful when you have just a tribe, almost a
Yeah.
built-in family in this journey with you, and they're celebrating your wins. They are there when you need a little pep talk and you're having a bad day, and they make you feel seen. They make you feel understood. They make you feel heard. I would love for you to speak to that piece of it because it is something that we've been able to build that I really am so very proud of.
Well, what I really appreciate about it is that there's other people, because I think all of us wind up feeling a bit like a little kid as we're doing things for the first time.
Mhm.
And we get pushback from people, and then sometimes it makes it really hard for us to stay motivated and stay focused on what we need to do. And it's so reassuring to have other people who are like, I did this, I feel kind of crazy, or I messed up, or oh my gosh, I did this, guys, it wasn't that hard. And just to be exposed to other people that are in the same exact place that you are is very normalizing for us as human beings. But
Mhm.
what I've noticed about for me is that there are moments that I internally I have these thoughts, and and this is, I'm gonna reveal some funny stuff about myself, but like as a psychologist with lots of degrees and a grown woman with grandchildren, I'm like, I should know all of this stuff. I shouldn't need this. I should be totally fine. And then there's somebody else that's like, I did this today, and I'm like, really? That's exactly what
Thank
I need to
you.
do.
Thank you. Because
That's
I did that
exactly what
exact.
I'm struggling with right now.
Yep.
Because y'all, I am not my own therapist. I know that probably shocks people, but like I am just as human as the rest of you. I struggle with self-doubt and challenges, and like there are moments that my coach will challenge me, and She really challenges me. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. That's not, I don't do things like that. I'm doing a great job. What are you talking about?
You asking me to
And
reflect on that? What? What? No. What are you talking about?
humble thyself. Um, and so I think it's really powerful to have a group of women that are doing exactly what it is that we're trying to do. And also I think it helps us stay on track. It really does. Because I know if I listen to my husband or my boys and they're like, "Oh, that's kind of stupid," or "Why are you doing that?" or "How come we have to do da 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 da?" I'm going to get lost in that. Because in the
Mhm.
moment, I want to people please, I want to agree, and I just want everybody to be happy, even if it means that I don't get my goals met.
That was, oh, that's a powerful perspective. I think what it also helps to do is normalize normal women and not social media highlight reel that you
Oh
see
yeah.
in the comparison trap that you tend to, put yourself in. I do it as well. I'm just as guilty. And so it's a space to be you. It's a space to come and get the support, the education that you need. There's so much conflicting advice online. If you've been following me for long enough, you know that we produce the jaw-dropping results. We're known for that. Like that is what we do. That is our bread and butter. And so this is a container that is going to give you the exact mechanism. Exactly. No more Googling what you should or shouldn't be doing kind of concept. This gives you that information. But the clarity here is it's not one-on-one coaching. And I want to make sure that you understand that. The price point would reflect that. So it's a $97 investment the first month, and then it's $47 a month after that. This is really, it truly is a container for you to get the information that you need, for you to have the resources that you need, and then it's up to you to execute. So I'm going to also drop the link for the collective in the show notes if that's something that you're interested in. Um, Hit the link. If you have questions on it, feel free. My DMs are always open. And we'll actually be hosting a call every single month in the collective as well. So that'll be part of that. And she really does. If you guys love what we do on the podcast, she goes even deeper into that with our one-on-one clients and those calls just because it gives you have the container and the space to be able to do so. So that's my little marketing spiel. I'm going to step off of my marketing soapbox. It almost feels even weird talking about it on here, but it's an exciting opportunity. And I really hope that you guys, you come join, you come play because we're going to have a lot of fun in that space. But let's dive into the parts work. And I am so excited about this because I have been doing this work personally on my end for a while now. And you've heard me, if you listen to the podcast, reference parts work. I did an episode with David Leah, who was the coach that I worked with for a 6 month time frame, who is the one that introduced me into parts work. And it has been so powerful to understand. And when this clicks, I'm not even kidding you, windows and doors open and it's almost like you can a breath of fresh air. You're like, "Oh, I get it." And so we're going to be talking about we're going to break this into a part series, but and you need context to understand before we dive into the nuance of this. And so that's what part 1 is going to be, just understanding the difference between parts and self. And we'll dive a bit deeper in the next 2 episodes of how you can utilize these tactics that Dr. Schwartz talks about to be able to work through these parts that are coming in. And if you had to describe, I would love for you, I'm going to give my explanation of this here in a second. But if you had to describe the definition between yourself and your parts, how would you describe that?
Well, yourself is the person that you are authentically without any hesitation, without any limitation, without a lot of fear. So it's the things that we do when we're showing up and we walk away feeling really proud and not like we're trying to perform or make other people happy. And the parts are actually they're actually representations of authority figures that we grew up with that get internalized. And the parts are often trying to protect kind of this what I like to this is going to get real cheesy here in a second, so forgive me for this as a therapist, but they're actually trying to protect the little kid that lives inside of you that was wounded and needs a voice and has lots of trauma and unmet needs. And those parts of us, when they come up, they feel very much like us. But the difference is that we wind up doing or saying things that are not consistent with what is in our heart and what we ultimately want to have happen. And we wind up feeling out of control when the parts are actually engaged in unhealthy ways. And all of it is designed simply to protect the younger version of us that kind of lives inside. And when I say this, I want to say this kind of tongue in cheek because when I was in therapy with a therapist that I was seeing when she kind of unpacked some of this stuff for me, the very first time that she mentioned like inner child, exile stuff, in
Mm.
my head, not out loud, but in my head, I rolled my eyes and I was like, and this is why therapists have a bad name. Thank you so much. Fortunately, I stayed with her because so just if you're hearing this and a part of you is kind of like grimacing a little bit, I get it. I absolutely understand, but you're gonna want to hang on and listen to this because once you understand what this is, and then it's gonna make so much more sense, and you're
Mhm.
gonna see what it is that you're actually struggling with, and it's not because you're the problem. It's because there are parts of yourself that are trying really hard to protect you and they wind up sabotaging your life.
I love that you brought that up because I did the same thing. And sometimes I feel I use the term woo. Jules and I actually joke around about because she's very, very woo. And I don't mean woo in a bad way, is not, but and you understand, I'm sure y'all understand the term woo, right? But I would do the same thing. I'm like, this just feels a little too woo for me. And when you said that, this is how therapists get a really bad name. And those are parts that are coming forward and that are talking. And so I guess if I had to describe parts versus self, your parts are everything that you built to almost survive. They're the mechanisms that come out and we're going to talk a lot about this here in a second, but from honestly, it all comes from childhood trauma, right? It's adopted from
Huh?
childhood trauma. And it is the parts that come forward that are built to keep you safe because the narrative that you have and the limiting beliefs that you have, these parts come forward and their only job is to keep you safe. So your parts were built to survive, and yourself is the woman who's truly underneath all of that. At the core,
Mm-hmm.
you know yourself, you know your intentions, you know that you mean well, and yourself is that underneath the core. And for a lot of women, I don't know if they truly meet their self, Anne.
Uh-uh.
I honestly don't think that they do because these parts are just so rampant. They are running the show. And so
Yep.
if this is resonating at all and these thoughts that you have that pop up, like Anne said, when you roll your eyes inside your head and you have these like, ugh. And the thing that clicked for me the most in the book is when he talked about how he would get in arguments with his wife and he would have parts that would come forward that would almost stir the argument up even more. Even though he knew it wasn't right, he
Yep.
knew that he was just adding, he was just adding more fuel to the fire. That part would come forward. He would say things just to purposely piss her off. And
Uh-huh.
that resonated with me so hard because I was like, oh, other people do this? This is a thing. I thought it was just me being a teetotaling bitch, is basically what I, for the longest time. And when it clicked, I was like, and he was just like, and it's a mechanism that
Uh,
if he is, he is upset and then therefore chasing me to not be upset, then I am safe because he's chasing me. Like that was the vicious circle that I was in. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this, but, and like, cute, like kick us off here. Where do we want to start when we understand? So now you guys have an understanding of parts versus self. Parts are pieces that come forward that keep you safe. They are survival mechanisms, and they really truly do boil down to childhood trauma. And then
hmm
self is everything underneath that. Where do we want to go from here?
Yeah. So, well, in this first episode, what we're going to talk about is you don't have one personality, and that's the problem.
Mm,
Because the reason you keep sabotaging your life is because a part of you is trying to protect you from something you have not faced yet. So, what I want to kind of launch is this idea that you're not one consistent person. And before you say, oh my gosh, Anne, are you diagnosing with multiple personality disorder? No, I am not. That is not what we're doing here. But and you don't actually change, just different parts of you take over in different moments. And if we look at, I'm going to get super nerdy here because I love the neuroscience behind this, but if we look at the neuroscience behind this, you spent at least 18 years of your life, usually at least 18 years of your life in your family of origin, and you were with a parent or both parents that had their own traumas, their own wounds, their own parts that were showing up. And you learned how to stay safe in childhood based upon essentially different parts that came up that learned how to protect you.
mhm.
So this is why you can feel confident sometimes, but then suddenly really insecure, or when you feel super connected to someone, but then you suddenly pull away and you don't even understand why. Because this is real life. This is what's actually happening to us as we're navigating relationships, because part of our body is remembering something in childhood. And once that feeling comes up, the part takes over automatically. It's not in our conscious control. We're not thinking about like, oh my gosh, I feel really connected to this person. And now I need to move away because this is too close and they might hurt me. No, that's a part of you that's actually trying to keep you safe because connection never felt stable.
Mm.
And and I think what happens a lot of times is that we see ourselves doing really well. I think this happens a lot of times as well with weight loss. Outside of I'm going to move outside of like the diet mentality, just for argument's sake with this, because we know that diets fail anyway.
Yep.
But this is when we're doing really, really great, and we're like we're on this roll, we're on this momentum, and we're like, okay, this is what I've always wanted. This is great. I'm like starting to achieve goals. And then suddenly, one comment, one behavior, one action from another person, one mistake that you make, it changes everything. And you suddenly let go of all of it.
Hmm. Yep.
And that is about this internal conflict that's occurring. It's not actually confusion, it's multiple parts competing at the same time to try to actually block what's happening. And when that happens, what will occur is this thing that you had clarity over suddenly becomes really scary for you. So, like, let's say, for example, you're on this mission to get a new job because you're really miserable at your current work, and then someone says something to you, or you get rejected from a job that you applied for, not even called back. And then suddenly you start doubting yourself and you start saying to yourself, well, maybe this wasn't meant to be, and maybe I meant to stay here for forever. Maybe I just need to learn how to have a better attitude, and we lose the clarity of what we were trying to do because fear comes in, and that protective part then comes in to kind of say like, oh, that hurt, let's keep you from pain now.
Hmm. Yep, it's all that internal conflict. And like you said, they do these parts, they're like competing with each other and they're coming forward. And this is why you can feel so composed in, let's say, a professional setting in the
Hmm.
office, right? You're the woman who's known to, and this was me. This was me. Oh my God, was this with me? I was the 9 to 5 boss babe. I was extremely good at what I did. I knew it, and people reaffirmed that for me. And there's not a single thing that would come across my desk that I was not 100% confident that I could solve and handle. And I was efficient, I would execute. And I, at work, was a completely different person than I was at home. And it was because these parts that were competing, and I was just at work, I needed to, my worth was tied to my performance and how well I could execute and how much I could get done and how many compliments I got for the day and how many rave reviews people would write about me. And so that part was, I had to keep that part going. Like I had to keep that person running, or I had to keep that part going because that's how I got my worth. That's how I got my fulfillment. And then I would get home and it would completely falter. And I was a completely different person at work than I was at home. And obviously there's, relationship issues, and we can dive into that you hear when we talk about different elements that come out. But it was these parts that would compete against each other. And I know a lot of women resonate with this. It's exactly why you could start something so strong in the moment. And then let's say, so you're starting something on Monday and it's like, okay, this is the week I'm really going to do the damn thing. And then by Friday, you you're a completely different woman. All motivation, all clarity, all reasoning as to why you were doing the thing is completely gone. And now it's a different part that's stepping forward that's trying to keep you safe because it's
Yes.
uncomfortable and it's
Yes.
challenging you. And you're like, what in God's green earth is going on? Monday, I was all for it. And yes, I mean, is there a world, like Anne said, diets fail and there's a reason why you can't sustain and maintain 1,000 calories? Sure. But the drive, the woman on Monday is a completely different woman than the woman on Friday. And that is
Yes.
because, again, they're coming forward and they're trying to keep you safe and they're building in that language and it's coming forth to say, well, if you really do follow through, what's going to, well. And so I would love for you to take it from there because that is something I know for a lot of women. And it's those competing parts that are going back and forth and it makes you feel crazy. It makes you feel
Yes.
absolutely crazy.
Yes. And here's my drop on neuroscience really quickly because I want to talk about that because I didn't finish my idea. But we grow up in families. up to the age of 18. And what we do and how we respond and how we stay protected, that gets built in as a neural pathway that's automated in the brain. And we know that automation lives in the basal ganglia. So it is not your prefrontal cortex. It's not your conscious, rational thinking part that you're aware
Mm.
of. It's the part of your brain that operates all the bad habits that you want to stop, right? And so why that's important is that once your amygdala fires and you move into threat mode, it defaults to the habit center of the brain. And
Mm.
I just want you to hear me say that real quick. It defaults to the habit center. So if I spent 18 years of my life, or 30, or 40, or 50 years of my life in these protective parts intermittently, what happens then is at the moment that I feel stress, those parts kick in because that's the habit center of the brain. That is the neural wiring that we have.
Mm.
And that is built in tangible evidence that it is not all stuck in your brain. You are not screwed up. It is a habit that has occurred in response to a cue in your environment.
Ooh, that's powerful. That is powerful.
And the reason this is that our personality was built for survival, but not truth. So as a child, your
Mm.
brain actually asked, how do I stay safe? How do I stay loved or not rejected? And you adapted by learning how to be easier and quieter and more useful and less emotional and how to have less feelings and less needs and not do the things. And this is a really subtle shift that occurs for most people because you don't even realize that you adapted. Because what we see is that this is just our personality, but really in fact what's happening is our patterns. The number of women that I work with, and I'm in this card carrying member of this club too, uh, that
Card
are
carrying
people
member.
pleasers,
Hmm.
uh, where we kind of say like, oh yeah, I'm a people pleaser. And we look at it like it's something really cool about us. But what it is people pleasing is an adaptation to keep from being rejected. And it is a brilliant adaptation for a child to actually learn that. Because what better way to stay protected from rejection than to make sure that everybody else around you is happy?
Mm, that's so powerful. And I work with so many women. I hear this day in and day out. And so basically let me summarize this because this is going to hit home for you. Women who tell me that they're overachievers, they're people pleasers, they're perfectionists. You guys, these are not personality traits that you're born with. I am
Nope.
sorry. Nobody's born with that. You built that shit. That's
Yes.
something you built to keep yourself safe. And so if you take on that identity as if, well, it's just what it is because I'm, a perfectionist and this all or nothing, which you hear me talk about all the time, the all or nothing mentality that produces all or nothing results. But again, this is not something that is built into your DNA. These are coping mechanisms. These are titles that you have given yourself. These are parts that are coming forward to keep you safe.
Bingo.
Bingo.
Yep.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
And if you stay in that protected format for too long, what happens? What do you see with people that you work on that are highly like the overachiever, highly perfectionistic, highly people-pleasing individuals? What happens to them?
They burn themselves out.
That's it.
They absolutely do. They burn themselves, they drive themselves into the ground. And this is why the goals that you have are never fully met. Because by the time it comes to you pouring into your cup and achieving end goal, if I don't do it perfectly and I can't please everybody else along the way and I can't go above and beyond what's already required of me and I already wear 18 freaking hats, mom, wife, mate, chauffeur, I basically have failed. And so then, therefore, it's like, there's the parts coming forward. Oh, well, I knew I couldn't do this. Oh, well, here we go. And then you go right back into, you know, the ideologies and the mechanisms that keep you safe. And it's like, well, I can't do this. Or, oh, well, I'm going to start next Monday. Or, oh, whatever parts are coming forward. You guys have 1,000 different variations of those parts in your head, but they absolutely burn you out.
Absolutely. And who you had to be is not who you actually are.
Mm, mm,
And I want you to let that sit for a moment because just like you said, we tend to look at being perfectionistic or people pleasing or overachievers as something with pride. Like that is my worth is being this person. This is what makes me worthwhile. That is a hustle for worthiness that always leads to the road to burnout. Always.
hmm And it comes from lack of boundaries because we were taught that boundaries they're mean. Especially as women, like holding your boundary and creating boundaries, not just with others, but with yourself. And I've
Uh-huh.
talked about this before, but boundaries aren't meant to push people out. They're meant to keep people in.
That's
And
right.
when you have clear boundaries and you operate from clarity, those it never comes across as mean or cruel. It just comes across as somebody who stands firm in what she believes in. And it allows you to execute, it allows you to show up, it allows you to pour into your cup. And that is something that I personally had to rewire. It was a struggle for me to be able to create boundaries. It was a struggle. Like saying no almost changes the temperature in the room. And no doesn't deserve
Yes.
an explanation. It's just no. I'm sorry. It
Yep.
doesn't have to be mean. It's just like somebody invites you out for dinner. It's not like, no. It's, hey, sorry, I unfortunately won't be able to make that.
Yep.
If it doesn't align with your goals or what, insert whatever situation. But again, as women, we are, it's almost like as we grow up, we are told that if we people, through childhood, if we make mom happy, if we make dad happy, then that's how we should get love and affection back. And then we're rewarded for that. And those tendencies carry into our childhood. And then when it comes to as an adult having to make adult decisions that are the best for you, your family, set you up for success, it can feel really uncomfortable when somebody comes to you and you have to challenge that or you have to, hold firm and because it doesn't align with you. And that is something that so many women struggle with.
hmm Yeah, because the behaviors that you actually hate are protective. And I'm going to
Mhm.
talk about several behaviors and what they're trying to protect. So, overthinking, those of us that are really anxious, that are trying to think about the absolute worst case scenario every single time. We are planning stuff out. We've got a trip in 6 months and we have already planned the entire trip, everything that we're going to do, where we're going to stop, where we're going to eat, what the weather might be, what everybody might need that might forget it. Okay,
Yep,
that
yep, yep.
overthinking is you trying to prevent mistakes.
Mm.
The people pleasing, that's you trying to prevent rejection.
Oof.
And when we emotionally shut down, when we can't do it anymore, we can't talk to somebody about how we're feeling, it's trying to prevent being overwhelmed. Your nervous system made to maximum capacity. And then finally it says, I can't do this anymore. And that's because I'm getting really overwhelmed and I don't know how to sit in that. So this shows up in lots of other ways, like rereading and reading text. The number of sessions that I've had with people where they read the entire text message and or entire text strategy, that they, like this is what I said, this is what he said, this is what she said. I can't believe it. And was I wrong with this? How did I do this? They don't know how to feel about stuff. They don't know what's happening. That's what that's from. Um,
Mm.
Over explaining ourselves, even avoiding hard conversations with people, the things that, I call it in appointments. I'll say, hey, I want you to think back to that moment that you had with this person. And I can see it on their face. I can see the tension rising as they're talking about interactions with different people. And I said, anywhere in that moment, did you notice that internally you were screaming?
Mm.
The number of people that are like, yes, yes. Okay, what did you want to say? And they'll say it. And some people say it really beautifully, some people say it really angry, but once they say it, they're like, oh. And I'm like, okay, that's the truth. Why didn't you say that?
Mm.
Because there's a part of us that's trying to protect us from what might happen if I say that. And I'm not talking about the rude truths because like those aren't very kind. I'm talking about the real truths,
Yep.
the things that need to be addressed.
The uncomfortable truths, the things that in the room just make us, the conversations we don't want to have kind of truths, right? Again, and it comes from a fear of rejection. If I say this, this person is going to reject me.
Yes. Yeah. So you're actually not sabotaging your life the way that you think you are. You're simply trying to protect yourself from pain.
Mm.
And this is why you wind up feeling broken. Because when we do that, we experience contradictions, lack of control. We have shame after reactions that feel very uncharacteristic for us. And the after effect of this is, why did I do this again? So
Mhm.
we assume there's clearly something wrong with me because I can't stop doing this. I'm broken. And when we do this, when we experience shame, and I love talking about shame. I did Brene Brown training on shame resiliency back when she used to do it for therapists and got certified in it. And the one thing about shame that really stood out to me about this is that once you're in shame, once you hit it, and it's not like we go there willingly, we feel it, we're experiencing it. Once you're in shame, you're done. You're done. You just ingrain that behavior even deeper
Mm.
because you're the issue, not the behavior.
Damn.
And problem solving stops when that occurs. We can't think outside of we can't think outside of the box that we're in because all all it points to is my defectiveness. So why am I going to want to share that or problem solve it? Because someone else is just going to notice that too.
Damn, that's so powerful, Anne. And if we tie this back to, a lot of you listen to the podcast when it comes, goals are fat loss, goals are to, change body composition, get in better shape. And if we bring this and tie this all back in, it is so powerful. The things that we're talking about right now, because I say this all of the time, but I can give you the best training split, the best macro program. I can give you everything that you need to know to be successful. But if you're not working through this shit, you're staying stuck. And this is the uncomfortable shit, right? Like this is the stuff that you can't, it's like the mindset piece. A lot of people want to scroll past it because it's not tangible. You can't hold it. And when you have to sit in that discomfort, like Ann just said, and you have to really dissect that this is a you thing. Like, and you
Mhm.
really have to sit with that internal, like, just, and it makes you cringe and want to crawl out of your own skin. That is where so many women, they completely shut down and they give up. And there's so much about this that's, and I'm going to relate it back to nutrition and your goals. It's like, I'm sorry, but most women that we work with, 98% of them, and you work with a very specific, I'm not speaking to those with eating disorders. I'm not
Yeah.
speaking, I'm speaking to the general population right now. Most of you guys do not have a food problem, you have a feelings problem. And
Uh-huh.
food just happens to shut them up. Let's be honest. And so it's
Uh-huh.
not the wine at 9 p.m., right? Like, well, it is the wine, but it's not about the glass of wine that you get home to. It's everything else leading up to the glass of wine. And the
Hmm.
wine is the coping mechanism.
Yep.
And so if we can't get to the root of what's going on between all this, why you have to reach for a glass of wine to, because that is the only way that you know how to unwind or relax. This is where the
Yes.
majority of you guys continue to struggle and keep yourself in what I call that vicious self-sabotaging merry-go-round. And this is the parts, the uncomfortable, the things that are coming forward, understanding shame versus, parts versus self versus, and all of this. Please internalize this and take this and do some deep thought and some deep work. And I'm going to step off of my soapbox and let you keep going. But this is the powerful stuff. This is the definition between this, the difference between those who see results and keep them and live their best life versus those who continue to keep themselves in the vicious self-sabotaging merry-go-round on the pity party.
Yes. And I want to kind of I want to out myself on this too because what was really eye-opening for me, and I've been doing this work for a long time. I joined your program eons ago and love it and joined your team and all that kind of stuff. And I can go to the gym, I can pound out a good workout session. I feel like I for the most part know how to move my body and work out. And I sent you a message just last week where I was like, why
Oh, this is a
can't
fun
I do
conversation.
anything with this part of my body? And it isn't because I just want to point this out. I've worked through a lot of stuff. I had an eating disorder, I had lots of shame. I have done a lot of really tremendous work around those things. I'm super proud of where it is that I have. So I do not need any aspect of my body to change for me to feel worthy. And I just want to point that out because this isn't tied to I'm not good enough because my glutes aren't what I want to look like. It's simply for me it was more along the lines I keep working out this body part and it's not doing anything. Like is this just what it needs to be? Because I assumed that it was just my body part. Like essentially there's probably just something like genetically modified. Like maybe I
Mhm.
have lipedema. I'm not sure what's happening, right? And you in a matter of words kind of said in a very sweet way, in a very kind way. Knock it off. You're lying to yourself. Chances are your food isn't exactly where it needs to be, and you got to work on some things, and those need to be tweaked. Ironically, my coach also said the same thing when I said the same
It's
stuff.
not a genetics thing. As much as we
That's
want
yeah.
to make it out to be a genetics thing, it's absolutely not a genetics thing. And yes, this is more than possible, Anne. We can absolutely build you an ass that stops traffic.
And the issue was that what I was thinking and what I was getting really frustrated with is I keep showing up to do these workouts, but why am I not having the same change that other parts of my body have? And I kept bringing it back to, well, it can't be this, it can't be that, because all of my other body parts are great, right? And I broke my pelvis a long time ago. I had foot surgery. There were other things that I'm working against. But it was that confrontation that I needed because there was a part of me trying to protect me from what I felt meant that there was something inherently wrong with me. And that was
Mhm.
at the core of this, not the fact that I grab a handful of Tootsie Rolls. Again, there's nothing wrong with Tootsie Rolls. It's fine to have sugar. But, like, what are my goals? What is it that's sabotaging it? And where are the ways that I give myself permission to use food as a source of comfort?
Yep.
versus food as a source of fuel and achieving goals. And again, nothing wrong with Tootsie Rolls. Love them. I'll keep eating them. But handfuls of Tootsie Rolls probably are not in my goal. That is not a game changer for me. And and what I want to kind of point out is that there's nothing wrong with you. You're simply defended. And
Yes.
what defended means inherently, it means that you are in protect mode. You are in lockdown mode because you're either waiting for attack or you feel attacked or you feel unworthy of something.
Yep. Yep. And I love that you brought this conversation up, Anne. I was actually going to ask you before we started recording, and I forgot. Can we bring this conversation up? Because this speaks to exactly what we're talking about. And it comes down to it is so common, these parts for Anne were coming forward to keep her safe and saying, I'm working as hard. I'm doing all the things. This is absolutely not a me thing, right? Like
Yeah.
there is no way, like I show up, my upper body, looks amazing. Why, like if this, why can't this happen? There's got to be something wrong with me. If it's not,
Uh-huh.
and does, she shows up. I've seen her train. She works hard. She does the damn thing. But what, I had to bring to the forefront very gently is that is that when you have a very specific goal, i.e., growing glutes, and you guys hear me talk about this, and I will continue to preach this, but the leaner you become, the more strategic it becomes. And there is a place when you have something as specific as, and I'm not saying that Anne's trying to be a bodybuilder, but she wants to grow glutes, she wants to grow size, and that is, a very, very specific outcome that requires very, very specific inputs. And if those
Mhm.
inputs are off, the outputs aren't going to be there.
Yeah.
And then also bringing to the forefront that she has a passion that doesn't necessarily align with her goals. And I want to talk about that, Anne, because I'm sure that, and I knew that that part was really going to trigger you. We talk about how much writing is for you. It is that release. It is that clarity. You don't do it to burn calories. You don't do it. You
No.
do it because you love it so much, right? But being able to acknowledge and accept what I was saying, and you took it very well. Like what I mean, you took it like a champ. But basically, I had to tell Anne that her passion contradicts her goals.
Yep.
She wants an ass that stops traffic, but she wants to bike 50 plus miles a week. And
Yep.
it's not that. And she's like, so you're saying I have to give up biking? No, 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 no. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying there's a trade-off. There's a trade-off for a period of time. And once we get you there, the maintenance piece of it is so much easier, but the getting there piece of it is going to require, there's not a world where we can expect a different output with the same inputs. And so
Yes.
those are the pieces that we have to look at. And so, but Anne's parts were definitely, I knew her parts were coming forward. I knew what they were telling her in the moment. But when you understand that these are parts and you can pull back and you're like, my part's saying this because, and it becomes a completely different conversation at that point. And this is how I handle all of my conversations with my husband now. I mean, my husband went through this work as well, so powerful. And we can have conversations with disagreements that say, my parts are saying this. And
Uh-huh.
it doesn't take the personal accountability out of it because you still are accountable to your actions, but you're able to say, look, I understand that this from my core root of who I am. This isn't me saying this as myself, but I have parts that are triggered because of this. And we'll talk a bit more of how you're going to be able to understand what these parts are, because that can be the hardest part is understanding what these parts are telling you and bringing it back to a moment in childhood to be able to dissect and put all of this together. But to be able to look at situations specifically between Anne and I and be able to say like, hey, parts, and I knew parts were coming forward for her. I knew that she, they were running the show, but to be able to understand and disconnect or, pull yourself out of it, yourself out of it and see the parts having a war with each other, then we can come in and we can resolve. Then we can, operate and we can attack this from a place of clarity and logic, even though it's emotional. And that's what I told Anne. I said, I know you don't want to hear this as much as you don't want me to tell you this, but you're kind of sort of doing the thing and you're not getting the results. So you're not kind of sort of pissed off when you don't have the ass that you want. You're like really frustrated right now. And so that is, and I see her nodding her head and like smiling right now, but that is when you understand this, you guys, that's the power to be able to attack something like this
Mm-hmm.
and be able to then dissect and move forward.
Yes, yes. And I think it was really challenging for me is that it took me so long. I mean, it was so hard for me to break my pelvis and then not even be able to walk, let alone cycle. And I remember those months where I was trying to recover, where I couldn't even lift my leg to get in the tub. Like my husband had to lift me and like move my leg so that I could move even to sit on the stinking toilet. And that was so humbling And I felt so helpless that I was like, I don't want to have to lose this again. I don't want to have to go to PT. I don't want to have to build this back up. I don't want to lose this thing that helps me cope. And so I wanted to hang on to cycling because I love it. I love going out in the countryside. I love seeing everything, and maybe not the dogs that have attacked me, but like outside of that, it's really fun for me. Um, and once it moved out of the realm of like, one, I don't have to lose it, but like I got to problem solve it. Like there's not something wrong with my body that it's not performing the way that I want it to. It's just that I'm not working through the anxiety about not being able to do it as much as I want to do it.
Mm.
And once that shift happened, and it was just simply, listen, it's just a formula. That's all it is. You
Yep.
can determine whether or not you want to take it or not.
Yep.
I was like, okay, I can do that. Not a problem.
Yep.
It was real simple.
And I love that you broke it down. It's just a formula. It is that.
Yeah.
It's a formula. And it's not a forever thing. And that's what I had to remind you. And it's not always going to be this way. Once we get
Yeah.
you to the end goal and you're able to build the glutes that you want, so much easier to sustain and maintain that. But getting to the end goal is just going to require a bit of, rearranging, like Ann said, and putting the formula in place so it makes sense for that end outcome. But being able to attack this again, the whole point of this, and I love that because we literally just had this conversation last week. It hasn't even been a full-blown week.
Yeah.
But being able to attack that and be able to problem solve from that, right? And like you said, and now Anne can look at this from a logical perspective. She's not broken. She doesn't have to, she doesn't have to completely give up what she loves, but she does have to, look at it and say, is this really what I want? I mean, she looks amazing. That's what I had to remind her too. It's like, Anne, you look freaking fire. You look amazing. And so this isn't like your inputs haven't got you to a place. It's not like your inputs, you're doing all the work and you can't lose a pound. It's like you look absolutely phenomenal. But if you want to take it to the next level, this is what's required. And it's not
Mhm.
because you're broken. It's not because you're not capable. It's not because lipidemia, your genetics, whatever it is, again, parts that were coming forward, it's more than doable. It just requires a different output for a period of time. And so that is something that I think when you can get to a place that you can get that open and honest with yourself
Mhm.
and that vulnerable even to say, look, I have parts coming forward, then that is the ability to work with your coach. That's when you can start to problem solve. That's when we can really get you where you're looking to go. Actually, we just had a team call talking about that. The transparency and the honesty with your coach is absolutely everything. But a lot of women, again, parts coming forward, keeping them safe. I don't want to be honest about the fact that I wasn't 100% compliant. I don't want to be honest about the fact that the scale didn't go down this week. I don't want to be honest because I'm only worthy if those metrics are met. That's what
That's
the
right.
parts are saying.
That's right. Or I'll be rejected for not doing it right.
Yep.
Very much like we were as kids. And I think one of the hardest parts that I see when I'm doing therapy is when I have people that come in that have loving parents and they don't understand because their brain didn't flag anything that technically hurt them, even though a
Yeah.
lot of stuff hurt them because they were protected and they were defended. And sometimes the things that hurt us the most are the things that didn't happen that needed to happen. So some of the moments in the conversations that something hurt us or we were really scared that a parent didn't show up, and maybe they showed up in other moments, but still that one moment or those five moments or maybe that one thing that your parent really struggled with and they couldn't talk to you about, that's what
Mhm.
hurts us. And
Yeah.
we have imperfect parents. It's fine, but we don't have to protect them. But what I want to kind of notice about this is that there's a system essentially running everything. These reactions are not random. There's an internal system that's organizing them and turning them on and off. But it's not the thinking part of your brain. You're not doing it on purpose. And once you see this, everything starts to make sense. Everything.
Hmm.
Because there are specific parts behind each and every pattern. And once you see the parts, you'll realize that you've never actually been as out of control as you thought you were.
I love this. And we're going to dive deeper in the next coming episodes, you guys, the next couple episodes about how you're going to understand how to distinct and like understand what parts are coming forward, where they're coming from, and how you're going to work through those things. But we really wanted to give context to the parts piece of this, obviously, like what that is internally that's happening before we dive into the how we're going to solve this piece of it, because the context here is absolutely everything. I also want to touch a little bit on, and of course, it wouldn't be me if I didn't, that we have these parts that are coming out and they're coming forward, and that very much so has been since childhood. These are mechanisms that are keeping you safe. But also, let's add to that and just to, again, so you understand how powerful it is when you take this. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is like take the right approach. But we have hormones that are declining on top
Yep.
of, you know what I mean? You have these parts, and then you have hormones that are absolutely packing up. They're exiting, they're leaving the building, and they are only adding fuel to this fire. It's only
Yes.
making that irrational feel 10 times more irrational. And so this is where when I say taking correct approach of looking at this of yes, heal what's happening internally, but also please look at what's happening biologically with your body. And as hormones are again packing up and you are left feeling almost numb on the inside, there is a world where implementing the things that we talk about when it comes to bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, we talk about the nutrition piece of it, we talk about the movement piece of it, those things only enhance what you're doing internally when you start to do the work. And that's why it all goes hand in hand together. And that's why you need to make sure that all of the puzzle pieces are there. I struggled to like get that out in the way that I wanted to get that out, but it really is. This is where understanding that your lifestyle, your nutrition, all of that drives your internal work. You know what I mean? And enhances that internal work. And so this is, you can't have one without the other, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know why I'm struggling to spit that out in the way that I want to
Well,
get it out, but
well, and I think what I want to I absolutely want to echo this because I get hormone replacement. Like I see a provider and I worked on all that, and man, it does, woo, just energy wise makes a huge difference. Like it just makes you feel like you're 20 again.
yep.
But in a good way, not in a bad way. It's like a good 20. It's like the 20 with wisdom,
The 20
where
with wisdom.
where you're not making all the stupid choices that you made when you were 20. Not that, you made stupid choices, but I made plenty of
Oh, I
stupid
made some
choices.
plenty. I'll believe me. I made plenty of stupid choices in my 20s, believe me.
But and what I want to invite you to is that I think that so much of what we do, and I want to echo kind of the collective and the reason why it's so important to be a part of a team, any team. It's so important to reach out and get help, be it coaching, be it therapy, be it IFS therapy, or I'm real big on attachment theory. My practice, Healing Journey Center, we do lots of trauma-based and developmental trauma and attachment work. But the reason why I want to kind of share that isn't necessarily to plug these things as much as to really reiterate the importance of other people in our lives and the importance of trying not to do everything on your own. That is ironically a part of you that's trying to like keep you protected.
No pun
Um,
intended.
yeah. Um, but there's a reason why it's so important for us to do things with other people. We were made as human beings as a group species and relationally. I love doing marriage counseling because I can get so much more traction with any person, any difficulty they're facing in the context of a partner that's willing to show up for them.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it is beautiful when it happens. And I don't care how destructive it seems like it's happening right now, like what the patterns that are involved. If I can get another person in the room who actually really deeply loves this person and we can sort through this stuff, oh my goodness, I have seen addictions broken almost instantaneously when we start working through everybody's stuff and everybody's parts. But it is multifaceted. And I think that can feel really overwhelming. Just look at one aspect. And if you get to a place where you're like, I don't know what else to do with this, go find some support, go find a team, join the collective, find a therapist, because they can walk you through. And I am living, breathing proof that the number of degrees I have didn't matter. It was the therapy that I showed up
Mm-hmm.
for my marriage that was on fire, like five alarm fire. It was being burnt to cinders. And it was my husband showing up as well. And when we did this work, everything changed. Everything changed in my marriage and my family, how I showed up as a human being, how irritable I got, the ways that I tried to protect myself, but my whole entire practice changed.
Mm.
Even what I do for a living changed. Um, and it all starts with just acknowledging that you can't do it on your own.
Mm. Thank you, Anne, for bringing that to the surface and saving whatever like mumbo jumbo I was trying to spit out with that piece. But you literally just you nailed it. You nailed it right there. There is so much power to community. There's so much power to tribe. And there's power in numbers, right? It's just the reality of what it is. And just more the fact that you feel heard, you feel seen. You're like, I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy. And especially in a world that we live in that is so driven via social media and highlight reels, where we can fall into not just the comparison trap, but the I'm not worthy trap, right? Well, this person has this, this, and this, and she's able to accomplish this, 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 and this. And here I am over here. I don't have a fraction of what she has, and she executes it 10 times better. And then you leave her social media profile page, whatever, and you just feel like a shell. You're like, well, that sucks. And so when you have, and you again, you get into a space where women are breathing the same language, they're communicating the same struggles and limiting beliefs. You're like, it makes you feel heard and seen. And you're like, okay, all right, okay, I'm not the crazy one here. This is why I always talk about, for me, I will never not have a coach. I understand nutrition up, down, left, sideways. I know exactly what I need to be doing. I know how to execute. I know how to train. I know how to adjust macros. I know I am extremely knowledgeable in this. But when it becomes your own journey, just like Ann talked about, there's emotion to your own journey. And we have blinders. It's like we miss the forest for the trees kind of concept. And
Yep.
it's really hard when it is your own journey to make the tweaks and adjustments that you need to make. Maybe it's adding food when you need to add food because you're so freaking afraid of it. Maybe it's taking away food when we need to take away food at specific times. When I say food, I mean calories, you guys. I don't mean specific foods, but I just mean calories
Yeah.
because fat loss is the goal. Maybe it's switching up your training program when you become complacent. Maybe it's looking at adjusting, like Ann said, it's not that I have to give up cycling, but I'm gonna have to give up, I'm gonna have to prioritize things in different quantities and amounts. And those things can trigger parts that make you feel really freaking uncomfortable. And so this is the
Mhm.
power. It's the power of not just community, the power of coaching, and being able to really truly get vulnerable with somebody and say, hey, I understand that these are my limiting beliefs and insecurities. And there's a world where coaching allows you to see perspective that you would not have seen in a million years trying to do this on your own.
Yep.
And
Yep.
yeah,
And I do that too, with you, with my coach, like being able to share, this is what I'm scared of, this is what the struggle is, and have someone just speak to me over that. And once you get it out, the cool part is that you don't have to feel ashamed of it anymore. You be like,
yep.
okay, I sounded like a complete moron, but like, thank you for that. Thanks for confronting me.
And I
I
always
needed
talk
that.
about this. Yeah, we tend to make things so much more in our head than what they really are. And it's that whole fear is a mile wide, but an inch deep. So you step your foot into the water and you can really hit ground. You're like, oh, I thought I was going to drown, but oh, here I am standing completely above the water. This really was not as bad as I was making it out to be. And we could do a whole podcast just talking about that. We'll continue with our parts work.
Oh yeah.
But that is
You're
all
nailing that word every
related.
single
Yeah, I
time.
know.
Good job.
My little phrase there. But I think I think that's solid. And to wrap up here, do we have anything else we want to add before I mean, next episode we'll dive a bit more into firefighters and all of these different types that are coming forward. But
Yep, yep. Next episode is the three parts that secretly are running your life. You want to stay tuned for that so that you can learn how to identify the parts and how they show up.
yes. All right, you guys. Well, thank you again for all of your support. As always, the fact that you guys give us the smallest piece of your journey means absolutely everything to us. But sharing and spreading the love is really what helps this podcast grow. And the fact that it has been able to grow as much as it has with very little marketing on my end to the podcast, I need to be better about that. It just speaks volumes. So thank you all so very much. The likes, the comments, the shares, the tagging, it means the world to us. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Ciao, you guys.